Caitlin Clark's that good.
Yep.
I don't know why this hasn't already been done and announced.
From Chris Farley to Caitlin Clark.
Iowa will be retiring the jersey. Can you imagine? I know, shocker. 22. They tweeted it out to the rafters. They'll be retiring this on February 2nd, 2025. So
my birthday's 2/22. Could have waited. They could have had an extra 2 in there if they had waited 20 more days.
Caitlin Clark has the blessing of Withrow's birthday. 2/2.
Similar shooters, me and Caitlin Clark, back in my heyday with her heyday.
Is this also white privilege?
Could be. Very, very early. Who was the Grizzlies that retired? Zach Randolph that we just torched?
Oh.
Because he was still playing with the Sacramento Kings.
Still playing, and they were retiring.
He came back and they were retiring his jersey. I'm like, come on. I mean, if it was Lou Alcindor, I would understand, but this is Zach Randolph. You don't need to do it early. I mean, well, this is the right thing to do. I mean, it's Caitlin Clark.
Oh, I mean,
of course they're going to retire her jersey.
What took so
quickly? Yeah.
Don't you do this the final game?
The announcement could have come on her senior night.
Yeah, the ticket prices are through the roof. I mean, after you retire the jersey, what's the next night you can have for ticket prices to increase? Please
stand, if able, as we acknowledge our senior Caitlin Clark and tell you that we'll be retiring her jersey 1 year from now. In this very arena, you can buy tickets now.
You could get into other games. For instance, they're hosting Northwestern on January 28th. You can get in for $25 on up, and then February 2nd. Caitlin Clark's jersey retirement, $446. The starting price.
Hutton, we should do a live show from the Northwestern game, the game before the Caitlin Clark jersey announcement.
Or after.
And just talk to really serious Iowa women's basketball fans about the meaning of Caitlin Clark. And just start every on the Man on the Street interview with, you clearly care about Iowa women's basketball. You're here at the game that's not Caitlin Clark joining the game tonight.
You're diehard.
Tell us about Caitlin Clark.
Even the coach left.
Yeah, you spent $25 for this ticket. Tell us about this. Are you going to the next game that's $446 or no?
So how are season ticket sales for Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball? Did
it fall off a cliff?
I don't know.
Do people go? It's a good question.
Plus you got USC coming to town.
Who's the OutKick Caitlin Clark beat writer? We got a Yellowstone beat writer. We've got beat writers for different things. Who's the Caitlin Clark? Who's on the Caitlin Clark beat?
I think.
Yeah.
Just volunteer guns.
We got the volleyball player for San Jose State. Is that Dan Z?
Oh,
that
Dan
was covering
J,
that story?
Yeah. That's right.
Let's put our guy. We saw Mark Harris here the other night. Let's put Mark Harris on this beat. Mark, congratulations. You got the Caitlin Clark beat. You can go and do a live show with us for the Northwestern Lady Wildcats. Is that sexist? Is it just the Wildcats or the Lady Wildcats? At Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball, January 28th, 2025. We're going to get in the building for the great price of $25 on whatever.
Well, how about this, though?
What site is this, guys? The StubHub we're looking at? At some secondary ticket market.
Yeah. And you got Juju Watkins coming to town.
Ticketmaster.com. Juju Watkins, who, according to George Karl, could star in the NBA.
Yeah.
Could help somebody out.
Juana Man.
Boy, that's an underrated movie. Haven't thought about that one in a long time.
All 15,000 season tickets have sold out for the second consecutive season. There we go. But you can get it for $25 on secondary. Come on. Sold out. That means that you got to increase that price.
And this is Jan Jensen's first year as Iowa head coach. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. Yep,
Jan Jensen.
Because
that's the most Iowa-sounding name I've ever heard. That is central casting for Iowa basketball. Jensen.
It goes back to last year and just the fervor for Caitlin Clark. I couldn't name another player on Iowa's roster. I have no idea how many players are back from Iowa's roster from last year.
Well, the other star was Kate Martin. I remember her.
Yeah.
And she's in the WNBA now, too. She was very good. But, yeah, I don't know if I saw them and, because I watched enough that the names would come back, but I'm not sure who came back from that team.
So if you went in, it's $500 to see the jersey retirement.
Mark Harris will be writing about it for OutKick.com.
Now, here's the other thing. What about service fees on top of all that? Is it like Ticketmaster for the secondary market?
Here's what I would do.
Are you doubling your price just because of the service fee?
Do you get crushed with service fees if you just go the old-fashioned way and call the box office and buy tickets that way? Or just go directly to the school?
Don't they have I doubt it. But then if you mail it or whatever, did they charge you to email your ticket?
I mean, do you have to give them their physical address? We'll mail these tickets to you.
I don't doubt it. I bet there is a fee somehow worked into that.
They're going to get fees however they need to.
Right.
Fees aren't going away.
Yeah.
But congratulations to Caitlin Clark.
You're not going to find
we
this
know it's going to happen at some point, and it's going to happen this year.
You're not going to have a jersey retirement that's going to require this type of money to get in.
No.
Not like this.
I wonder how big of a television event this will be when they retire a jersey.
I don't know. I mean, it is USC, so.
Yeah, they're going to bump this game up, I'm sure, from Big Ten Network to ESPN, I would say, if it wasn't already going to be there.
ESPN, maybe it's a Sunday, so.
ABC.
Maybe.
Could be an ABC game.
If she's going to be in attendance. I've long said, if I was a network, and maybe they've done this, we didn't see it on ESPN doing the Final Four or anything. I would try to get Caitlin Clark on the broadcast, on the set, if I'm WNBA, for the WNBA finals. Try to get her as an analyst on set.
I mean, if I were inside the NBA, I would try to get Caitlin Clark there for a night. If I'm anything talking about basketball, I want Caitlin Clark on set. Caitlin Clark can join us for our live show from the Northwestern game. If she gets there a little bit early, I would welcome her on any set if I were doing television.
Get in for 25. We buy all the tickets for $25.
That to me is a no-brainer. Like, get her there with Jay Wright at the Final Four.
Then resell them.
I mean, she can be an analyst for the men's game,
We drive up our own ticket prices.
Yeah. We're just out there. We're just hawking Hawkeyes.
We buy them all up for $25, and then we resell them once we announce that Caitlin's going to be there.
Caitlin's going to join us live, pregame, Northwestern. Not her jersey retirement game, but the one before.
So you've got
Can't wait.
The desperation to try to get into that game for the jersey retirement for Caitlin Clark on 2-2. There's desperation down south, in Tuscaloosa, where you've got Greg Byrne sounding desperate for NIL funding. Got the AD there trying to push back on telling fans to fight back. Over the past few years, there's been a drastic change in college athletics. We've been careful during this transitional period to protect our position at the top of college athletics while being mindful to listen, engage, and learn from our generous supporters, proud alumni, and unrivaled fans to make sure that we protect our great traditions here at Alabama. But there's a time for talk and a time for action. Now's the time for action. In his open post to Alabama fans. Chad, this is a little desperate for you?
It's a little thirsty.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong here. When NIL, July 1st, 2021, Tennessee, as an example, they were among the first to jump out there with Collective. They went all in. I didn't feel like Bama did that. Now, behind the scenes, they were doing what they needed to do to compete. Saban was Saban. He was on top of the college football mountain. But about a year later is whenever you started to hear about the Alabama Collective. You and I have friends down in Tuscaloosa who would tell us that the Collective there, that wasn't a hard push. They already had their money guys, their donors, their supporters, their boosters. That never changed. But the Collective didn't get a push for a few months out, and they were behind, like a lot of universities. This is another example to me of the first I'm hearing from the Bama side of things, when during the season, right after the Oklahoma win for Tennessee, they're pushing the 10% hike in ticket price. It was actually 7%, I believe, for what the player tax, the talent tax, I believe is what the talent fee. And it's how they worded it, and you're coming off a big win, and everything seems fine. Tennessee fans will pay. Bama fans will pay to have a better roster. But, the way it's like, okay, we've been talking about it, now it's time for action. We've got to make sure we have the funding here. Timing a little bit off. This feels a little weird for me.
Well, it feels a little thirsty.
Right after the portal. And
it feels a little desperate for Alabama. It feels a little rash that just because you're left out of the first college football playoff, like now the response is, boy, we're falling behind. We got to catch up. We're getting outbid. We're getting I think they're freaking out a little bit with all of this. But, I mean, look, Greg Byrne would know what their NIL looks like compared to other schools. He's going to have that information. He's going to know just how many players they're losing in the portal because they're not able to pay what other schools will pay. I also think this is all one giant reality check for the Alabama fan base and Alabama athletics, Greg Byrne included.
Well, he's saying like it's time for Bama Nation to fight back. He goes on to write to the fans in the letter like, hey, our competition has us in their sights. They're actively trying to surge ahead with NIL.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's
what competition does.
And that's been happening. You know, like, so he goes, you've heard examples of other teams using promises of $1 million paydays to lure away our players or convince them not to come to Alabama. It is time for Bama Nation to fight back. Fight back by luring other players away for millions of dollars is what he means.
Nate Oates is doing just fine with whatever NIL he has. Basketball is good. I mean, I think football is going to be fine, but you paid a lot of money to hire Kalen DeBoer, and Kalen DeBoer's got to be in charge of everything. If you're not competitive in NIL, then you're going to get beat in recruiting. But again, back to the reality of it, you're going to get outbid. It doesn't matter that you're Alabama.
And you're going to outbid others too.
Yes, but to a lot of kids, it's not as easy as let's get him in there to see the old coach Nick Saban, and he'll close the deal. Because that's what you relied on for years and years and years. He could sell his resume and national championship rings and the fact that almost everybody who went to play for him, and possibly everyone, won at least one national championship if they spent all 4 years with Nick Saban. You can't do that anymore. I mean, I'm not trying to sound cruel to Alabama fans out there, but you can't live off your reputation when Nick Saban's no longer there. You're going to have to spend. You're going to have to sell other facets of the program. Guys, this is what the rest of the conference has had to do for years and years. When they've been fighting against Nick Saban, and they couldn't do it because Nick Saban was far superior to to everyone in the SEC, to everyone. So good luck. Welcome to the club. I mean, fight back. Go talk to Arkansas fans or South Carolina fans or Florida fans right now. Florida's fighting back. Florida just flipped a 5-star signee from Oregon receiver to Florida.
After
who's trying to appeal to get
lawsuit.
Out. Yeah.
For not paying.
I mean,
for under-promising, over-promising.
I mean, I don't know if the kid's going to get paid or not, but I guarantee he's been promised a lot of money to flip from Oregon to Florida.
So Bird is pushing a subscription to their NIL, entity. Yeah, Alabama or Yay, Alabama. YEA.
Yay, Alabama. Dun, dun. Is it yeah or yeah?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember.
YEA. I think it's a yeah.
Yeah, Alabama. So it's YEA_ALA is their social handle. It has 16,000 subscribers right now, or followers. He goes, the subscription here is not about the now. It's about the future. It's about the roster retention for future seasons, keeping our legends in crimson. It's about attracting and developing the best recruits in the country to represent Script A. You being a part of the team has never been more important. Doesn't this sound like 2021? It's 2020. It's 2025. We're here. And Alabama, this isn't Middle Tennessee State University, but it's out there. This is Alabama asking you to subscribe to their NIL account in 2024, 25, not 2021.
People just aren't accustomed to this with Alabama because in the Nick Saban years, it was like dealing with the CIA. They're just not going to talk about things because they don't have to. They're going to go about their business however they go about their business, and they're going to do it in a business-like manner because Nick Saban is heading the organization. There's no need for desperate pleas to fans to spend money or to join a club or anything like that because Alabama's going to be just fine. And now when I see a statement like this, I think not worse or not better. Alabama's just like everyone else. They are exactly like every other SEC school that has to pound the pavement and get donors and get even middle-class people to spend a little bit of money every month to try to go into a fund to lure players. Clay brought it up yesterday, but Alabama is not flush with billionaire alums or Alabama fans. There are some programs that have a fair number of super wealthy people associated with them. Alabama's not really one of them. Alabama's got a gigantic fan base, though. So it is smart and does make sense for Greg Byrne to try to milk that large fan base. That's what he's doing here.
I'm just the timing of it. I'm looking at the calendar going, where has this been? Saban's been gone a year. The timing of not getting into the playoff. Again, on the calendar, the volunteer athletic department did a great job of rolling out that announcement when they did. Right after a win on the road at Oklahoma, Oklahoma's first SEC game, Tennessee wins. And you've got you're looking at that going, okay, it makes sense to roll it out in the middle of the season. You got a lot of hype and momentum. Bama right now doesn't get into the college football playoff. They're coming off some disappointing losses, most recently to Oklahoma, but also Vanderbilt. And what could have, this is something that I think you roll out if you make the playoff. You're getting ready to go play. Instead, getting ready to go face Michigan, and I'm not too sure how many Crimson Tide fans are making that trip. Not a lot of momentum.
No.
And that's not the standard. I know Byrne mentioned, I think is a good guy. And I don't think this is poorly worded. I just think it's poorly timed.
And Alabama, by the way, finished third nationally in recruiting this last cycle, which is second in the SEC. Texas is number 1, Oregon 2, Alabama 3, Georgia 4. So, and I'm looking at On3's cumulative team ranking with all the different outlets pitching into that. They're doing fine. This is not something I would not expect this from Alabama. So it's different to see Alabama
fight
appear.
Back is not what we've heard.
Right. Alabama now appears mortal, and to me, it's just the long shadow that Nick Saban's going to cast over that program. That is a compliment to Coach Saban and everything he accomplished, because I see this statement from Greg Byrne. I think, yeah, Bama's like the rest of us. If you're college football, you're looking around thinking, okay, they're just another really good program. They're another really good program trying to fight and claw to get in the 12-team playoff every year. And they're 0 for 1 doing that. So they need to raise money.
Of course, I mentioned they lost to Vandy, as we all know. They will face Vanderbilt again next year, right?
Yeah, they just flip. I think
they
next
flip-flop.
Year,
I Googled
I can find their schedule.
Alabama
They
football
released
schedule,
the
and the
SEC
basketball
schedule.
schedule pops up on Google, which is interesting. Time to fight back and put the football schedule up when you Google Bama football.
I'll find it for you, Hudson, because I know that they've released the SEC portion of it. They play Vanderbilt at home on October 4th.
Okay.
Right around the same
4th,
weekend.
In Tuscaloosa, Diego Pavia will be leading the Vanderbilt Commodores. Tuscaloosa for his 17th season in college football. No, he's been granted another season of eligibility. They get the injunction, and he had filed for this whenever he was arguing that the 2 seasons in JUCO shouldn't count toward his eligibility because it hampered him from earning more in name, image, likeness. We've seen this in the past, Chad, and initially it didn't seem like things were going to go his way. And then I was discussing this last night with someone. Pavia's been in a lot of meetings as of late, and he's going to be playing in a lot more games because season's not done. Vanderbilt needed to know something. Speaking of the portal and is Pavia coming back? Is he not? He's going to be granted another season of eligibility. Here he is. He'll be playing for the black and gold. Great player. Quite the story. And this is a bigger one because this impacts the landscape of college sports yet again, where if you're going to junior college, that's not going to count against your eligibility based on this injunction that he has won.
Yeah, and I think Steve Sarkisian of USC had something to say about this, and I want to respond to what Steve Sarkisian's saying.
With Diego Pavia getting the extra year now after essentially having his JUCO years not count, I'm curious for your thoughts on that, not necessarily as a head coach having to manage a roster, but as a former junior college athlete yourself who played 2 years there and then only got 2 years at the NCAA level at BYU.
Yeah, I totally disagree with the NCAA's determination on this. We chose to go to junior college football, and that's where we wanted to start and play our career. So I don't understand it at all. We're going to have guys 28, 29 years old playing college football. Like, what's the point, man? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I totally disagree with it.
I don't hate the sentiment of, we're going to have, the 30-year-old punters out there. But, I mean, right now, if you're going to file for anything, you're practically going to win if it gets to the NCAA.
So one thing, too, it's not the NCAA that ruled this, right? It is a court injunction saying the NCAA can't impose this rule.
Right.
About eligibility moving forward.
The NCAA loses right now.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. I don't know that the NCAA is really fighting this. I'm trying to correct what Steve Sarkisian said, because he said, I disagree with the NCAA on this ruling. It's not the NCAA that's ruling this or changing their rules. It's a court saying the NCAA can't rule on JUCO. I think it's a mistake. I mean, I love it for Diego Pavia. Cool for him that he gets to continue making money and playing college football because he's not going to play in the NFL. This is not a play. This is a perfect situation for him because he's unlikely to be an NFL quarterback. So now he gets to make money and play in the SEC, and he's a huge get for Vanderbilt, and he's a folk hero on West End. So good for him on that. But I'm just thinking about the ramifications of all this and how it also changes recruiting even, that now you could just have, basically athletes can go to a 2-year junior college finishing school, and that does nothing to their eligibility.
It's extend your high school career, basically.
I mean, why would I not just go to junior college and recruit 20-year-old freshmen, 21-year-old freshmen? Because that's what they are now. When they come to your school, you got 4 more years of eligibility. Now, if they're going to play at the next level in their sport, they're not going to stay for all 4 years until they're 25 or 26, but that's not most players. So now you are looking at guys into their mid to late 20s that are still playing. I just think it's a very slippery slope that this opens up. So while I don't hate it for Diego Pavia individually, if this now is just a blanket thing, I think it changes how you recruit.
Well, and this,
I think there's going to be a number of programs that will only recruit junior colleges because they're saying, why would I take a 17-year-old incoming freshman when I can take a 20, 21-year-old incoming freshman?
well, and what this does, this enhances and it underlines the need for federal legislation, because without it, any small crack in name, image, likeness right now, you can file against the NCAA, and they're not going. They could disagree with it, which they do. They released that in a statement. They said they didn't like the ruling, but they're not going to do anything about it. They back down. So without federal legislation and a governing body overseeing all of this, you're going to have aspects of what was college football and what is college football now totally different. And it opens up the door for a lot of different recruiting lanes here. I mean, what about the retroactive? How many players right now went to JUCO that are playing on a roster currently?
There's a lot. There's a lot all across the sport, not just in the SEC, all over the sport. It's things like this, too, when you start to peek into the future and seeing what precedent this could have. And I really start to think, man, there's a reason that America is the only place that even has college sports, that it's a thing. Like, we really were spoiled for years and years. Like, I see now why it's not practical to continue how we know it. Like, it's just the courts are going to overrule everything because we are the only country that has produced this major business based around scholastics, based around education. And at the center of it is supposed to be players going to a college, going to class, representing that college. And we're going to put all the games on TV and everybody's going to watch them and we're going to sell all these sponsorships and everybody's going to make money except for the players. Well, now the players are going to get paid too because the courts have ruled they need to get paid and that's the right thing to do. So now all the money's going to go into the players. And now there's no stipulations on anything that the NCAA can do with eligibility or anything else. So it's an endless thing. So what is it now? It's pro sports is where we're headed. And it really does give me a sneak peek as to we've had it really good for years and years, and I don't know what it's going to look like 10 years from now.
That's why we need the legislation. We need something.
We need something to stop it because pretty soon it's not even a club sport. It's just you take those individual brands and they can still use the facilities on their campuses, but they're not going to be with the school.
That's it.
They're going to be their own thing as part of a pro sport.
Pro sports, college sports, doesn't matter. Teams don't like being called soft. And that was insinuated and said about Brian Callahan's Tennessee Titans, who are 3-11. And the quarterback was just benched after turning it over yet again. Will Levis, who has 12 touchdown passes to 12 interceptions on the season. He's no longer the starter for the Tennessee Titans. And they've been getting housed, boat raced, been losing to bad teams and blown out against good teams. And Callahan was asked about whether or not he had comment on his team being soft, and, well, he didn't give a soft answer.
You respond to that idea?
I mean, you really want to get me going today? Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think it's complete and total bull. If you want my honest opinion, these guys are tough, man. They go after it every day. They play hard as hell, and there's at no point have we ever put on tape at any point this season that this is a soft football team. Like I can't even wrap my mind around how that would even be a conversation. I mean, just because we don't win games doesn't mean we're soft. These guys play their off. They play hard. They play physical. You can ask any team that plays against us that when they come off the field, they know they played us. Yeah, that makes me relatively angry that would be some presumption. That means you just don't watch. You know, you don't do anything about it, that you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're looking at. So I won't stand for. I'm not going to stand for anybody calling his football team soft. I think that's bull. So if there's opinions out there that feel that way, then they don't know anything about NFL football. So I'd like you to walk in there and call one of these guys soft and see what happens. This is not a soft football team at all, mentally or physically. And I think one of the things mentally that's really been impressive about the team is that the way that they keep fighting through the way that this season has gone. They've not shown at any point that they're not up to the task. They come out every day and work. They have. I mean, you're gonna really get me going now. I mean, these guys come out here and they do everything possible to win games. And if there's any assumption anywhere that's outside of this building, again, we don't focus on all those things, but there's no possible explanation to say that this team is soft any way, shape, or form, mentally or physically. And the way that they go about their work it's insulting to me, to them, to everyone that works here. So I'm not that no chance ever in hell would I ever admit that to be the case, and neither would anybody in this locker room. So you can kind of shove that one right up your to be honest. So
why do we believe the word ass?
I don't know.
Shove it up your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, sorry, that just hit me. I'm thinking. Okay.
If you don't like that word, don't stay tuned for Dan Dockich later.
Thanks.
You're going to hear it a few times.
Yeah. Or many other words of various programs across the internet. Look, he says everything possible to win games. No, they don't. They don't do everything possible to win games. They have tons of penalties, turnovers. They roll Will Levis out there, who's helped them lose games. This is the response of a coach who has to stand up for the team and the players that have been playing hard, despite a terrible situation where they're trying to evaluate a quarterback who isn't the guy. And what we saw this past weekend, Chad, was a detrimental regression. Will Levis looked more like the quarterback in week 1 than the quarterback that we saw about a month ago that was not turning the football over and being praised for it. So, and Callahan has admitted this. He's been getting in front of the team and challenging them to do certain aspects better, like actually play hard and go try to win the game. And when they do that, they sit there on the bench, the defense does, and watches their quarterback turn the football over. And then the offense can go to the sideline, and when the defense needs to come up with a big stop, they give up a big drive. That's what they do, and that's the routine. So he says it's insulting to call them soft. No team wants to be called soft, and I don't think they're soft top to bottom. But, I mean, it's insulting to say that this team does everything they can to win games when all I saw was a franchise throw a quarterback out there that does everything to lose one. That's that. And the locker room's not stupid, and I think they needed to hear this from their head coach to the media, because it's a different portrayal behind the scenes than what it is in public.
I think it's very well said. And if you know ball, you know that it's not ass that should be get bleeped out. It's soft.
Thank you.
Because football players they're not going to stand for that. That is a dirty word. Not ass. Soft is the dirty word. To any professional football player or any football player at any level, you call them soft, you are calling their mother every bad name in the book by doing that. You are insulting their very being by saying a football player is soft or a team is soft. So that's why Brian Callahan goes on an expletive-ridden tirade about this, because he knows how his players are going to respond to it. I also think it does serve him well to, play the part of the tough guy to the media and defend his team passionately that way, because he's a guy who'd love to have a second year as the head coach. And I'm not saying he's not going to be back for a second year, but I could see a scenario where things get bad enough where that might be a possibility, that he's a one and done. So he needs to show that he is the boss. He's in charge. He's got his players back. Because like Hutton said, he needs whoever the good players are on his team right now, and they're few and far between and hard to find on Sundays, but whoever they are, he needs those guys playing their ass off for him and playing hard and continue to do that. So that's one reason to do it. I will also combat him on one thing and say that It was Jarvis Brownlee, not some member of the media, who said they let the cold get to them on a 41-degree day in Washington. That's soft. Now, you can say he's a kid, a rookie. He wasn't that smart when he said that. No other player believes that. He misspoke, whatever. But that's a direct word from one of your players who's playing a lot, that the cold got to them. That's a soft response and a soft answer. Not to say that on film every player's a quitter or they're all soft or anything like that, because I'm not really seeing that.
No.
I'm not seeing a team that's quitting. I'm seeing a team that's bad and that does not execute well and that commits too many penalties and turnovers. I see that, not a bunch of soft quitters. That answer, though, was soft.
Yep.
So that's one example of, well, this was a soft response. So you got to address that also. And you need to address that. Maybe he did. After the fact, you need to address that with the individual player.
Yeah, he said he talked to him.
Who made that statement.
Look, it's just they're not mentally tough. Peter Skoronski, one of their offensive linemen, has admitted that. That was back in October, that this wasn't a very mentally tough football team. They scored back-to-back touchdowns to begin a game for the first time since Week 7 of 2022, this past week. And then they proceeded to go 14 plays for a total of 18 yards. This team sucks. And for the players that are actually trying to, get in the middle of a scrum against the Bengals, I understand why they don't want to be called soft if they're playing out the string of the season. They're professionals. They're supposed to do that. By the way, Will Levis is about as tough as they come. That offensive line is a turnstile, especially on the right side, and Levis gets lit up for it. But he also, contributes to the losses on the scoreboard just about as much as anybody else. And, it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. This team has been down the drain.
Yeah.
They're 3-11. No, I didn't predict them to go to the postseason. I also didn't predict them to be, the bottom of the barrel among the worst NFL teams.
To fail to cover the spread in 12 of their 14 games.
Yeah, just
even cover the spread.
Yeah, just
when they're not favored in many games.
Not competitive.
No, it's really bad. And what you need to be is to be both tough and good. That's the next step for the organization.
Yeah,
it's one thing to be tough and not be able to win. And, you can defend your guys' toughness all you want.
This team
isn't both.
I would describe this team as soft. I would describe this team as bad.
Yes.
And that's what Brian Callahan needs to change. And that frustration is coming through there because the players that he has right now, while they may be playing hard, that's not good enough. Still ends up with the same result.
And he hasn't been good enough in year one.
No.
No one's been good enough with the Titans. That's just the cold, honest, hard facts about the situation.
And Mason Rudolph gets
ownership down. It's an F. Rand Carthon, F. Brian Callahan, F. Leadership on the team, F. Will Levis, F. Everybody gets a failing grade this year. Yep. Everyone. So how do you come to grips with that? Do you feel like a bounce back is in order? Is there potential to get better next year? Those are all questions the owner's going to have to evaluate.